In 1983, an engineer at Toyota signed a document approving 128 horsepower. Nobody in that building thought it would matter. It wasn't a flagship. It wasn't even the interesting car in its own lineup. It was a compact coupe, built to be cheap, practical, and forgettable. Its name was the Corolla Levin. Twin round headlights, steel wheels, nothing special. But three engineers working on the chassis had a different idea. They weren't told to build a sports car. They built one anyway. Underneath the cheap sheet metal, they gave it something almost no economy car had: a nearly perfect 50-50 weight balance, rear-wheel drive, independent rear suspension. At the time, most economy cars were front-wheel drive, nose-heavy, built to be cheap to make. This one was built to be cheap and to corner like nothing else in its class. Under the hood sat a small four-cylinder engine called the 4AGE, twin overhead camshafts. It revved to 7,500 RPM, unheard of for a car this cheap. On paper, it looked like nothing. In the mountains, it felt like everything. When you sit behind the wheel of an AE86, the first thing you notice is the weight. There isn't much of it. The car barely weighs over a ton. When you turn the wheel, the back end doesn't fight you. It follows you. Push it too far, and the rear tires let go. Smoothly, predictably. Most cars punish you for that mistake. This one invites you to correct it. That single trait, forgiving oversteer, would define everything that came after. But in 1983, none of that mattered because nobody was buying it for that reason. Families bought it because it was affordable, because it got them to work around $10,000, depending on the trim, a commuter's price. Toyota sold it in two versions: Corolla Levin with pop-up headlights and Sprinter Trueno. Same chassis, same engine, different face. Nobody outside Japan even knew both existed. For 4 years, it sold quietly, steadily, without a single headline. And in 1987, Toyota discontinued it, replaced by a newer, front-wheel drive Corolla. The new model was safer, more efficient, more modern in every measurable way. It was also, by the only measure that mattered to a certain kind of driver, worse. The rear-wheel drive chassis, the one thing that made the AE86 special, was gone. By the early 1990s, the AE86 was just another used car, cheap, common, disposable. Some were scrapped. Some were driven into the ground by teenagers with no money. Nobody wrote about it. Nobody photographed it. It was simply there, then gone. But in the mountains of Gunma Prefecture, something else was happening. Local drivers had started using these roads for something they weren't built for: racing downhill at night, using the road's own curves as a track. They called it toge, mountain pass, and the cheapest, lightest car often won. Not the fastest car in a straight line, the most balanced car through a corner. A used AE86 could be bought for a few $100s by the mid-1990s. It became the car of drivers who had no money but had something to prove. One of those drivers, in 1995, wasn't behind a wheel. He was behind a drafting table. His name was Shuichi Shigeno. He was drawing a manga about street racing. Every racing story before his had used supercars, Ferraris, Porsches, machines nobody could afford. Shigeno wanted something different. A hero his readers could actually imagine driving. He remembered a car from his own youth. Cheap, tired, but strangely alive on a mountain road. He put it on the page. A tofu delivery boy's father's old Trueno. Nothing glamorous. He called the series Initial D. It began serialization that same year. Nobody at the publisher expected much from a story about a delivery car. But readers didn't see a delivery car. They saw themselves, ordinary, underestimated, capable of more. Within a few years, Initial D was one of the most popular manga in Japan. It was adapted into an anime, then games, then films across multiple countries, and suddenly, everyone wanted the car nobody had wanted a decade earlier. Prices for a rusted 10-year-old economy car began climbing, then climbing further. Cars that had been sitting in barns, forgotten, were suddenly worth fighting over. Tuning shops that had ignored the AE86 for years built entire businesses around it. Aftermarket companies started producing parts again for a car Toyota had stopped supporting. None of this happened because Toyota marketed it. Toyota barely remembered it existed. It happened because one artist, drawing alone in a small room, chose honesty over glamour. He didn't pick the car that looked the fastest. He picked the car that felt real. And in doing that, he accidentally proved something the entire car industry had missed. Balance beats horsepower. Lightness beats size. A cheap car built honestly can outlast a legend. Today, a clean AE86 sells for more than most brand new sports cars. Collectors search barns, garages, and scrapyards across Japan, hoping to find one. The same car that dealerships once struggled to sell for $10,000. Toyota eventually noticed. In 2012, they released a spiritual successor, the GT86, rear-wheel drive, balanced chassis, a deliberate echo of the car they once forgot. But the original was never about specifications. It was about what those specifications let you feel. You weren't looking at a failed economy car all along. You were looking at the industry's best-kept secret about what actually makes a car great. Not power, not price, balance. The one thing money can't always buy.